Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so some things to talk about in the NBA. I didn't see the game, and I didn't watch it on purpose. The Pacers and the Knicks, as somebody who roots for the Knicks from afar at times, off and on throughout the course of my life, I've always thought the Knicks were a team to root for myself. But you know, I'm a Laker fan, so I don't share any allegiances at all with anyone. But I tell you the truth, man. As soon as OG Anunoby went down, I knew that the Knicks were in trouble. And I knew he was going to be out. I told you guys he would be out for Game 2, Game 3, and Game 4. He went down in Game 2 or something like that. I think that's how that went. But I knew once he went down that they were going to be in a world of trouble, because at the end of the day, it was going to be very difficult for them to sustain what they do without him. They need a defensive wing out there who could put up enough scoring on the board to go up against this fantastic offense. And while the Pacers don't play any defense, if you don't have the players to play offense against them, they're still going to be running at the pace that they are, and it's going to be up to you to keep up with it. And they have some try-hard guys with the Knicks, but they're not necessarily built to score 130, 140 points. And the Pacers, they are. That's what they do. So eventually, without that two-way wing out there to kind of put a muzzle on certain things, the Knicks were going to get right. The Pacers were going to get in trouble. Pacers were going to get into a position where they could get out of trouble, as I misspeak with this thing distracting the hell out of me, and ultimately take over the series. That's why I thought it was so important that the Knicks take Game 1 and 2, and they did. But the Pacers were likely going to take Game 3 and Game 4 because the Knicks weren't going to have the players to keep up with the pace and scoring. And they keep playing the same 6 guys over and over again at 40 minutes a game. You're going to wear them out. And that's exactly what's coming to bite the Knicks at this point. They're getting worn out by players, by layers and layers of units being thrown at them with a deep Pacers bench that's built to run. You just can't keep up. You don't have the personnel at this point. Now, if OG was out there to lock somebody up, and you had that rim protector, Robinson, who's also out, if he were out there, then it takes a little pressure off your team, even though your coach probably ain't going to run too many guys other than them. But at least you have some bench help. Now you're relying upon Alec Burks, who I learned in paying attention to the Pistons this year, doesn't make good decisions. Even though he had a good game tonight, you're not about to win nothing with him playing significant minutes in 2024. You're just not, man. He's part of the worst team ever assembled in the Detroit Pistons earlier this year, only to get traded into a situation where he plays for the Knicks. And now, because of injuries, he has to play minutes off the bench. If you're going to play players off the bench, you got to know who to play and who not to. And when you don't use most of your bench, those guys are not going to be in rhythm or develop properly enough to be able to really do anything for you when you call their number. So that's what it is, man. I just frustrated for the Knicks faithful and frustrating as somebody who kind of appreciates the Knicks from afar, man. The series, luckily enough, is tied at 2. But if they don't get those guys back for Game 5, I'm afraid Game 5 will go the exact same way Game 3 and Game 4 did, with them on the wrong side of it. So I don't particularly hate the Pacers. I'm just extra frustrated in a sense that I don't think the Pacers have a shot in hell at beating the Celtics. And as a Laker fan, I really need the Celtics not to be there. At least with the Knicks and the way they play defense, if they're fully healthy, I expect them to give the Celtics hell and maybe even win the series, especially if Porzingis isn't back. However, Pacers ain't about to beat the Celtics. The way they play defense, Celtics can keep up with them. They're going to score. Celtics probably get them out of here in 5 games. Celtics be in the finals in no time. And right now, I don't trust anybody really out west to stop the Celtics, because the Timberwolves look terrible against the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets have looked terrible against everybody, even though they beat my Lakers in 5. They ain't look good at all until Game 3 of this past game here they just played. And Dallas ain't good enough to beat the Celtics. And I'm afraid OKC is a little too young and a little too thin to be expected to do anything against the Celtics. So the Celtics are just going to win a very, very easy championship, in my opinion, if the Knicks don't somehow beat the Pacers. And if they ain't healthy enough to do so, then that's it. So I have real concerns, man. I have real concerns. I had all the faith in the world in Minnesota, but Minnesota has shown me that if Anthony Edwards ain't playing at an absolutely high level, they're a team that really can't be who it is that we thought they were in these first 6 games of the playoffs. He has to be scoring at 35 points a game. And while he's capable of that, he's only 22 years old, man. So as a Laker fan, I'm worried that we're about to watch the Celtics just waltz into the easiest championship they've ever got. It's just freaking devastating, really, when you consider we just tied them for championships at 17 a couple years ago. So, yeah, man, I need the Knicks to get healthy. Get healthy, man. They're going to try hard, they're going to play hard, but they need to get healthy. And freaking Thibodeau keeps playing them 48 minutes a game, so it's impossible to expect that they will be energetic and healthy enough to really do anything. So, yeah, that's my frustration in regards to that. I don't expect much. And, of course, we'll see if Minnesota can get back on track tonight, or will they allow Denver to win the second straight game in their house after winning the first 2 games in altitude, which I don't know. I mean, the way that Denver played game 3, it's a possibility that happens. So what are you going to do? That's what I asked. Minnesota, are you going to have Anthony Edwards come back and score another 35 points to bring your team back to the level it needs to? Or are you going to have an off night and watch the Denver Nuggets tie the series up, headed back to altitude, for which I do not expect you to win game 5 if you allow them to get 2 games straight against you. It's defending champions. If they figure something out, they done figured it out. That's how that goes. So I don't know, man. I don't know. This ain't shaping up positively, man. Not if you're me, a Laker fan. You do not want to see the Celtics win the easy championship. So that's what's on my mind there. Another thing I'm thinking about is just how the lottery played out. Atlanta Hawks getting the first overall pick, Washington Wizards getting the second pick. I reacted to that directly after it happened, and congratulations to those teams. The Houston Rockets got the 3rd pick, San Antonio got the 4th and the 8th pick, which is crazy. And then, you know, I didn't get a chance to see who the losers were. The big losers, the biggest loser for me is the Toronto Raptors, man. They tanked this year, and they ended up trading the pick that they had this year, that ended up being the 8th overall pick, for Jakob Poeltl. So that's where it went. San Antonio's 2nd pick. That's what Toronto has given up. So yeah, it's rough for the Toronto Raptors. They got the 19th pick and like the 25th pick, and they were one of the worst teams in the league this year, tanking, hoping to get in the top 3. It didn't happen. Another team that kind of got screwed in this lottery is the Memphis Grizzlies. They ended up getting the 9th overall pick. They really had a bad year. They really needed the pick to be better than that, even though obviously they have Ja Morant coming back and a lot of young talent that they found along the way, you know, some really good players. But at the end of the day, they tanked. They needed the pick, and they didn't get it. So that's kind of rough on them. I feel for Memphis fans who were hoping to have a magical lottery situation that can ultimately boost their situation and bring them back to the top of the West. But the reality is they are a flawed bunch right now, and it's going to take Ja Morant coming back at 100% for them to be who they were hoping they would become. So I feel for them. I do. But not nearly as much as I feel for Toronto, man. And then there's, you know, another spectrum of that. You got the Houston Rockets, who are just fantastic, man. Put themselves in a position at the 3rd overall pick in this situation after having one of the best, processes of rebuilding and reaccumulating young talent that you could ask for. Just getting all types of 2nd picks, 1st picks, 3rd picks, all different types of stuff. Having a lot of luck in the lottery and doing great things with that. And have really accumulated some of the best talent that they could. So you definitely feel great for them. Another loser in the situation is the Detroit Pistons. Obviously, they started the season was horrible as hell, tanking their butts off. Some of that was just ineptitude, to be honest with you. I think most of that was actually ineptitude. Whatever the case may be, they ended up with the 5th overall pick instead of the 1st overall pick. And that's really, really, really rough on them. They haven't had a whole lot of luck in the draft process over the last several years, with the exception of getting Cade Cunningham. Obviously, we love the fact that they picked up Ausar Thompson, but you know, they were hoping for Wemby last year. Just really had some bad years, and they haven't really come into anything for them. And so, you know, it's one of those situations where I legitimately wonder where the Detroit Pistons go from here, because, of course, when you expect to get the highest level pick possible and keep on getting 5 and 6 every year, you end up in a situation like the Knicks were in, where you could never actually get what you need. You never actually got the stars. So their spacing situation is pretty terrible. So if I'm them, 5th overall pick, I'm using on a shooter. Now, they did bring in some nice role-playing shooters in the offseason. During the season, as they made some trades and stuff to improve their team a little bit. And I'd imagine there's going to be a fantastic shooter somewhere in this draft that they could take at the 5th, in that 5th range. I haven't done all the homework on these guys, but, as far as the young talent that's there, I know there's some shooters. I know there's some shooters in that range. So if I'm them, I'm going to take the best shooter and just call it a off-season. Because getting a lot better doesn't make a whole lot of sense. They probably want to tank again. Just develop Duran and Thompson and Ivy and Cunningham, or move 1 or 2 of them and kind of condense it to make a little more sense. But ultimately, you expect another 29-win season for the Detroit Pistons, and the hopes of winning the lottery next year with the draft to be so much more talented in theory. So that's kind of what it is, man. They will be tanking again, and another team like the Charlotte Hornets got the 6th overall pick. I think that could be helpful. I don't think they would have been angry at getting the 1st overall pick, to say the least. But I think they lucked out last year getting Brandon Miller, and I think they could pair him up with a hell of a guard or somebody like that. They kind of boosted their overall team. And, of course, LaMelo Ball coming back for another year, probably an all-star year this year if he can stay healthy, which is never really something you want to bet on with LaMelo, unfortunately. But we know they got the hell of a duo there with Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball, if nothing else. And that's a hell of a duo to build from here. So I think that 6th overall pick will just booster that overall team. And, of course, they got a new coach in place, Charles Lee. So I think better days are ahead in Charlotte. I don't think you don't feel so great about getting the 6th overall pick. But I think there'll be quality there for them. A real quality player at that range that they can pick up and continue to add to what they're building. So I think they'll ultimately find themselves happy if they do their due diligence and draft properly. So yeah, man, I think, the Portland Trailblazers and the San Antonio Spurs, you just kind of, even though Portland would love to have had a good pick for their main pick, they have 2 picks in the lottery at 7 and 14. And of course, we said San Antonio at 4 and 8. You really got to love that for those 2 tanking teams. Of course, you want to get that popped out superstar in the first 2 picks. But then again, this is such a bad draft in theory that you may end up with the best player at 7. You may end up with the best player at 4. You know what I mean? That's just how this thing can shake out. So that, I think they're going to be very happy with that type of value. And when you're tanking, that's kind of what you want to see. When you have nothing but young talent, that's kind of what you want to see. Portland, 7 overall pick. You're adding to Shaedon Sharpe. You're adding to Scoot Henderson. And you add 2 more of these pieces. Maybe your 6th man you pick up here. Maybe your 5th best guy you pick up here. And they all can grow together. So that's a good look there, man. I like the idea of a team like that. Even though they don't get a great pick, 7 and 14, you still have 2 of them. And that's going to bring you some real talent if you pair up the right stuff. So, some of these teams, the concern is they don't historically draft very well. So you look at a team like Portland and you hope they make the right decision with their picks. You look at a team like Atlanta, you hope they do the right thing with the 1st overall pick. I personally said they should take Risa Shea, I don't know how to say his name, from France. But a lot of people think they should take Sarr and get another center. I don't see anything wrong with that. I haven't done homework on either one of these guys. So for all I know, Sarr is definitely the guy. I don't know. But based on where I'm at, I just love the idea of putting together 2 wings, personally. And the Atlanta Hawks putting together Risa Shea and Jalen Johnson. I just love the idea of that. Now, whether or not they see that as a better way forward than getting Sarr, I don't know. For all I know, Sarr is the better guy to get there. I don't really follow Atlanta well enough to tell you that they should go with a wing rather than a center. But to me, it's just, I love what the idea of Risa Shea is. He's a 2-way guy that can really shoot the ball. A much better version of DeAndre Hunter. That kind of thing. Maybe even something a little better than that for which I just described. So if you have that Jalen Johnson already in place, who's fantastic, at the wing spot, and you put somebody next to him that can kind of do the same thing and be long and comparable in way they play together, and then you keep one of those 2 point guards and trade the other for a nice return, I think you could find yourself in a very healthy position with a lineup that makes sense. But it all depends on what they want to do, as far as what their vision is for their team. And again, they are not known for making the best decisions. Obviously, Kobe Bufkin is still there from last year. They drafted. Maybe they could have went in a different direction since they didn't use Kobe at all, and had the two centers, Young and Murray, in place. Point guards, rather, not centers. But that they had those players in place and went point guard with their pick, it seemed a little weird to me, to be honest with you. So we'll see what they do, man. I don't doubt that when you're looking at Clint Capella and you're looking at Onyeka Okongwu and you're looking at Bruno Fernando, yeah, you could probably upgrade at the center position and get a guy like Sarr, the first overall pick. I understand that Sarr is a hell of a shot blocker, rim protect. Maybe you pair them two, him and Okongwu together, and try to shop Capella. I think Capella will be expiring this year, but probably at a price that nobody's going to really want to take on unless they're trying to dump multiple year salaries. So I think in listening to Atlanta Hawks fans on Instagram, they seem to think that a center is most definitely what they need, and I will lean on their understanding as it pertains to that being an area of need. I don't follow the team that way, that closely to know that the center position is such a problem. So, it is what it is, but I just think about what type of team I want to put together. Long, talented wings that can shoot and play defense seems to me to be something that you really need. But a center, when you look at where we're at in the NBA, maybe a center is even more so the premium desire of need at this point. So when I do homework on Sarr, maybe I'll fall in love with his game and he separates from Risa Shea, whatever it is. At this point, I don't know. I ain't confident at all. I ain't gonna even pretend like I am. But what I will say about Atlanta is, as I said in the video when I was reacting to the lottery, I think that they're a team that really has themselves in the catbird seat as it pertains to negotiations. Now they could take all that they have and maybe even offer up a little more now that that pick turned into the first overall pick. So if they were dying to keep a certain asset or something like that, maybe they're more likely to see that player's replacement right now. For example, Okongwu. Maybe now you want to offer up Okongwu if you intend to draft Sarr. Maybe it's like, okay, I wasn't going to trade him, but now, hey, let's put him on the trade block, see if we can get something for him, that kind of thing. So it just puts him in a much more advantageous position to improve their club. So, yeah, you like Atlanta's situation right now, man. You definitely like Atlanta's situation. And if you're an Atlanta fan, you don't have a whole lot of confidence and faith because of the mistakes that have been made. So Landry Fields is in position to be the GM there. We'll see what he does, man. We'll see what he does. He just can't make a mistake. And judging by what we saw in football with Atlanta, they really, really don't want to miss out on the best prospect here. We saw what they did with Penix when they had just paid a quarterback, $150 million, something crazy like that, and they drafted a young quarterback. Probably ain't going to get on the floor for another 5 years. So that's just not, when you have a position of need, that is not what you want to see. That's what they did in football. So it's on Landry Fields not to further frustrate the city by doing something stupid like that in basketball. So yeah, man, that's what's on my mind, man. I just think Atlanta's in a fantastic position, and good luck to them. And of course, I gotta correct a mistake. Bilal Coulibaly was the player that I had forgotten that plays for the Wizards that they drafted last season. I think they'll be happy to get Sarr or Risa Shea, or if they have another player in mind. It really doesn't matter because they, one or the other, they have so many positions of need that I think anything that they get will probably be great for them. Either one of those things would be great for them. So that's really what comes to mind, man. I'm just really shocked that the Atlanta Hawks got the first overall pick, as I think most people are. Just didn't see that coming. This is a team that was in the play-in tournament last. We saw them. A couple good plays go a certain way, and they're still in the playoffs. But instead, they fall out of that and find themselves in a position to not only jump in the lottery, but get the first overall pick to add to what they already have. So, you know, that's a great position for a team that's probably looking to move on from a superstar. I know a lot of people are saying it's rigged because they're moving Trae Young. They were gifted the first overall pick. I don't know. I don't have any evidence of that, but I can say that this is the best luck possible for a team that is likely to move on from someone that is going to be able to add some wins to another team. So that's what you want to see if you're Atlanta. I'm not against keeping DeJounte Murray. I think trading Trae Young probably get you the better return. And I think that they've proven that they play better with DeJounte Murray at the point guard in regards to everybody else getting the ball. I don't imagine they're going to draft a point guard with the first overall pick. But I can see them trading one of them. And we'll see. You know, the franchise is Trae Young at the end of the day. But I do think as long as we're talking about continuity and defense, you're probably going to go forward with DeJounte. You probably are. But I don't rule nothing out. I don't know what Landry Fields' dream is at this point. I know he didn't think he would get the first overall pick, so that now has to be worked into the dream of the franchise and see what they think they'll be able to do. I'm pretty sure they thought they would have to use money to fill a spot or keep a guy that they did not want to keep. Now they have the option of saying, yo, my small forward position can be boosted, my center position can be boosted on a rookie contract over the next several years of a high-level player. So, I mean, it doesn't get much better than that if you're Landry Fields and the Atlanta Hawks. So, yeah, man, very curious to see what the Houston Rockets do. They obviously don't need a center. They obviously don't need a power forward. They don't need a small forward. They don't need a shooting guard. And believe it or not, they most definitely don't need a point guard. So what does Houston do with the third overall pick? Are they bringing in a guy who would get a lot of minutes in one place and not a lot of minutes with them, as to which he has no chance of reaching his potential because he's on a team full of talented players? Or do they do something strange like trade the pick? Which is something that I don't think is too crazy, because when you look at them and who they've been for the last couple years, yeah, they've drafted a lot of young players, but they've also added Jeff Green to the situation, added Dylan Brooks to the situation. Moves that are more so win now. And while I know they shouldn't have done that because they had just picked up Cam Whitmore and they had just picked up Amen Thompson, they seem to not really know better than to add big salary in those positions just the same. That tells me that they may still be in that mindset to want to get rid of some of the young guys and maybe go in a direction that allows them to have a star. And if that's the case, they may be willing to move the third overall pick. So that's something that I'm really thinking about with them. I don't know that they're all in on being young anymore. If anything, they've proven that they're not. So getting the third overall pick is a very valuable asset that they can use to pair up with salary to bring themselves somebody else. So that's something to really consider, man. Maybe you move the third overall pick and Dylan Brooks and other stuff, and you try to bring yourself a sign and trade for Paul George or Kawhi Leonard. I could totally see the Houston Rockets doing something like that, man. And the Clippers should definitely want to do something like that just to get rid of one of those guys. Paul George is obviously going to be a free agent, but Kawhi Leonard they can move on from. And if Kawhi Leonard can be moved for the third overall pick in salary matches, I think that's a win for Steve Ballmer, man. So I'm putting that out there right now. Test the waters with the Houston Rockets. If I'm the Milwaukee Bucks, I see how interested they may be in like Chris Middleton and maybe another piece, because Lord knows they could use that third overall pick or trade into somehow to get some young talent. They got to get some young talent in Milwaukee. You know, there are other teams that could totally use that lottery pick. Totally use that lottery pick. So that's what comes to mind, man. I think that pick could be in play. I think the Houston Rockets winning the third overall pick when they weren't probably supposed to get a pick in the top 10, it put them in a strong position to maybe move that pick and continue on this win now timeline that they seem to want to manifest. You know, I look at a guy like Terry Eason. He's being pushed so far down the depth chart with Houston that maybe he could be on the move too. It just doesn't really make sense to sign like a Dylan Brooks for that reason. You got Terry Easton, you got Cam Whitmore, you got Deshaun Tate, and now you got the 3rd overall pick that you could use on a small forward. It's just Houston Rockets have a plethora of young players and not enough money in the distant future to pay all of them the inflated salaries that they're going to ultimately desire. So what do? Do you bring in guys that you're not going to develop properly just to have a souped-up young team when you're an owner that doesn't really like a young timeline anyway? Or do you start pairing up this pick and a couple of those young players and getting yourself somebody that fits the timeline that you truly desire? I think that Houston pick could be on the move. And if not the pick, then probably another couple of young players that just been drafted over the last 2 years. They could do something. So keep an eye on the Houston Rockets, man. That 3rd pick is in play. Most definitely in play. So yeah, that's what I want to say, man. I definitely don't see them bringing themselves a young player. So yeah, I'm gonna give some more thought to that, man. There's a lot of teams that could do something. I think a couple of these teams right now in these playoffs, rather right now, could probably use an upgrade in some areas. A team like the Knicks, a lot of the picks that they have are not in play this season. And maybe they could use some booster talent to help them kind of get over the hump. So I could totally see them being active in doing something. I don't know if they want to acquire more picks, or maybe trade next year's first for somebody's this year first kind of thing, or 2 years from now first for this year's first possibly. Because I think the Knicks could really use a piece from this draft to kind of boost what they're going to do next year. So we'll see how they go in the playoffs. But if they fizzle out here, a guy like OG Anunoby, if he can be upgraded to a guy in the lottery, I don't know if that would be something they'd be willing to do, but they could certainly use the young talent. Brooklyn Nets, same thing, another team that could use talent. So it's just a lot of teams that don't have lottery picks that may want to trade with a team like the Houston Rockets to get those picks somehow. Phoenix, if Kevin Durant is in play, I'd imagine Houston would be very happy to include the 3rd overall pick to acquire Kevin Durant. That's a real thing to consider in a situation like this. Yeah, that sounds like something that Houston would do. So yeah, man, just keep an eye open, man. I think this lottery really shook things up. It opened the door for some potential trades that I don't think people see coming. So that's pretty much what I gotta say, man. I appreciate everybody for watching BDF 44. Out.